Okay, let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome to week 6 of Web Design Decal. Today we'll be covering CSS animations. And before we dive in, I'm going to go over a couple announcements. So homework 6 released today as usual, due next Thursday. Lab 4 due next Monday. Homework 5 due today. So if you haven't gotten it done, please submit it ASAP. And the midterm project is due next Tuesday, March 14th. If you need help, just email the TAs at least a day in advance, please, and then we'll help you out in our office hours. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about CSS animations. This is really cool because this is like the first like motion and the first like sort of like dynamic websites that we'll be creating in this class. CSS animations are a big part to create these dynamic websites that move and like just have really cool animations when users like interact with it. So CSS animations basically effectively allow us to express like brands' identities in ways that we haven't seen before. With like a normal like flat website that doesn't have any animations, you can only do so much. Animations really bring like another like page into the picture. So just like define an animation, an animation is a change of state over time. So a lot of like, animations in this class will be thinking about like a starting state and an ending state. So what is the starting state of the animation, what is the ending state of the animation? Those will be really big things when we go over CSS animations, and keep those in mind so your website and your website animations look really good. So all this can be done in CSS. We'll go over more animations in the future, but there are many capabilities of animations in CSS, which we'll be covering today. So to start off, the first like bit of code, keyframe animations. So keyframe animations are a type of CSS animation, and they're typically formatted this way. So you're going to have like an at keyframes, and then this is a syntax. You're going to have a name for the animation. So this is similar to like syntax for like functions. So you're gonna have name, and then you'll have a set of rules. So these rules are going to sort of define what your animation is going to do in a specific period of time. And then different ways to write these rules. One way is to use from and to. So if you think about from and to, this is sort of like what I was touching on earlier. So beginning and end. Let's say we have this animation fade in that sort of makes the opacity of a specific element go from 0 to 1. This way is a good way to, if you have just like a starting and ending point, to define like a start and end with from and to. If you wanted to sort of like change the animation like within the beginning and end, a way to do that is to use percentages. So for example, let's say you wanted to like have like something on your website like fade in and then fade out. So we could use percentages. So percentages like in keyframes define like when in the animation a specific field is going to change. So in this case, we have at 0, we're going to start with opacity 0 at halfway through the animation, so 50%. We're going to have opacity 1 and then fade back out at 100%. So these are a couple ways to like write keyframe animations following this like name and then rules format. Let's say you wanted to like move something on the page. Another example, you could use like the top CSS property. This is also using like the percentages. So this basically starts at up, goes down, and then back up within this period of time. Yeah, a couple like sort of like a practical example. We have here like just like a phone screen that we use a keyframe animation on. So on the right, this is what the keyframe animation looks like in real life. this is sort of like that fade in, fade out that we're doing. So you're starting and ending at the same place, but in the middle, you are moving this person down a little bit. So this is like a cool way to do CSS animations. Hopefully that gets your minds thinking about like what types of animations you see on typical websites and whether or not they could be using CSS animations. Okay, so application. So let's say you like, you're probably wondering like how you would use these CSS animations. So we have the keyframes definition. In CSS, this is what it will look like. So let's say you have like a potato head element in your HTML that you want to add like an up-down animation to. So basically, you're going to define the keyframe, and then in the CSS of your element, you are going to use the animation name property, which will be the name of the keyframe. So if you see here, we have the animation name, and then we have the keyframe. So the potato head element is going to have like this keyframe animation up, down. And then you're going to set the duration and to be 0.5 seconds. So basically what this will do is from 0 to 100, this whole thing will last 0.5 seconds. So basically it'll go up and down for half a second. So basically like in these, like the mandatory properties, if you're going to use a keyframe, have to be name and duration. Otherwise, like the element does not know like what function you're using or how long to use it. There are also other optional properties, such as like a speed curve, which we'll get into. So basically like the speed curve is basically like sort of like a graph for like how your motion is going to occur. So there are like many different types of like easing functions, which are like speed curves, different types of speed curves. You can play around with these like online. The most like basic ones are like ease in, ease out. You can see those curves online, but these are just like a lot of like random curves that sort of define. Like, so if you think about like how an animation like moves, you can think about this like curve as like how fast it's moving. So like let's say like cubic, it will sort of like move slowly at first and then speed up and then slow down. Like easing quart will go really slow at first and then speed up. So you can sort of experiment around with a lot of these like easing functions when you are creating elements and like adding animations to them. Next, we have animation delay. So this property basically defines like when or like how much delay you want to put on a specific element. So if you have an animation delay of 0 seconds, that means when the website loads, this animation will occur for 0.5 seconds in this case. So this potato head, like once the website like loads on like a website web page, the potato head element will go into this up down animation for half a second. Yeah, this animation delay could be like any integer, any number of seconds. The next one, animation iteration count. So this property basically just defines like how many times you want to have this element animate. So this could be like any arbitrary number as well. Yes, and then the last one, animation direction. So basically this one is like which way you want like the direction to go. This could be like, there are many different types. Like this could be like forward, backward, reverse. Like if you want like an element to go up and then go back reverse, this is like a good way to do that. So you can play around with these properties as well when you are creating your animations. This is like a really cool shorthand that will probably save you a lot of time when you're coding a CSS animation. All you have to do is define animation in your CSS, and then in order of those properties that we defined earlier. Obviously, the first two should be there, and then the last like 4 are completely optional. It's only if you want those properties. So let's like basically this potato head that we have earlier, this is like the shorthand format for it in code. So basically you can define the animation and then name, duration, speed curve, delay, play number, and direction. So this is like a really like convenient way to like shorthand your CSS animations. Okay, yeah, and if you want an animation to stop in a final state, so let's say you have an element like moving across the page and you want it to stop at the end where it like ends up, you should use this animation fill mode property with the forwards value. Otherwise, sometimes like what happens is if you have an animation where something moves across the page, you after the animation completes, it could like reset to the beginning. And sometimes you don't want that. Sometimes you're like looking for a cool effect. So like when a user loads a website, you want something like maybe slide across the page and end up somewhere. This is a good way to ensure that it ends up in the final state. So yeah, animation fill mode property. Yeah, so basically like in what we've learned so far, we've learned transitions with CSS pseudo selectors. So these are more like responding to a user's action. So like hovering, clicking, etc. And then you'll basically use a transition property to determine like time, speed curve in your CSS, etc. Stuff like that. And then for animations, so animations are like continuous and like sort of automatic. So like these will be like when a website loads, for example, or like a few seconds after a website loads. So these are sort of like unrelated to like a user's action. And these are what we like talked about today. So like animations and keyframes, these will be really helpful to like implement those type of features on a website if you're looking to implement like sort of like automatic animations on your websites. If you're looking for like user transitions, like clicking, stuff like that, then pseudo selectors will be the way to go. And then we have a demo. I'll probably like open this up. This is like a really short demo. See if it works. Okay, hopefully y'all can see this. Basically what we have here is like a ball using a CSS animation called bounce. And basically what bounce does is it translates its y value from -200 pixels, which is right about down here, and then to 30 pixels, which is about up here. And basically uses an ease in function, and then it starts right when the website loads. And it goes an infinite amount of times, and then it alternates. So basically what alternate means is that it's going to go from to to, and then to from, and then from to to, and then to from. And this is like pretty helpful if you want like any like bouncing animations. This is like really like practical. We can go ahead and play with like some of these values. This might screw up like this perfect animation that we have going on right now, which is like easing in infinite alternate. We also have a shadow that grows as the pumpkin goes like bounces. And this uses like another animation, shadow size, which basically we use transform scale, which scales the shadow to like large at 0, and then nothing at 100%. So as you can see, it's like sort of like reversed of what the pumpkin's doing. So as the pumpkin goes closer to the ground, we want to make this scale 0. So that's how like shadows work. So this is a really cool like animation that has like 2 different HTML elements interacting with each other, but both have their own like different CSS animations. Let's say we wanted to increase like the duration of this CSS animation. We could make this like 2 seconds, and then this might not misalign now, but basically like, yeah, this is going to be extremely slow. But these are just like ways that you can play around with the animations. And then you could also like try different curves, like ease out, looks like that, which is probably not ideal for a bouncing object. But you can play around with different speed curves. Those are really cool to like see what your animations are doing. this is a delay. I can see if this works. Basically, it's going to delay 2 seconds. Yes, and then it starts. So basically this will be on the slides. Feel free to play around with this, especially like this animation button. We have it in shorthand here, but feel free to play around with these properties so you can see how like this translates directly to the output, which is really convenient. But yes, let's see. Does anyone have any questions? That is it for the programming section. And feel free to like ask in the chat or speak up. But if not, then we'll move on to design. I believe Grace will be presenting.